Environmental education, as defined by the Environmental Protection Agency, strives for the goal to increase awareness and knowledge about ongoing environmental issues or problems to the public on every scale, local, regional, international, etc. In doing so, it provides the public with the necessary skills to explore issues, make informed decisions, and implement positive change for the future. Environmental education, specifically in younger generations, increases the number of individuals that understand complex environmental issues. These students can be prepared for the current environmental situation and are good stewards to the world around them. The environmental education programs within the United States have grown significantly in the past 30 years, with nearly 2/3 of American teachers including environmental literacy in their classrooms. High-quality environmental education programs in society are necessary for moving behavior in the direction of sustainability and environmental conservation. Focusing specifically on one place, Salt Lake City, understanding environmental education in all its facets, distribution, depth, etc. becomes a feasible option. According to Salt Lake City's sustainability plan, an education-based goal is to support development of a robust environmental education program. The strategies laid out include the incorporation of sustainability activities, environmental training for teachers, and annual fall and spring environmental education events. The issue becomes, however, where these robust environmental education programs will be implemented within the Salt Lake area. Will these programs be found in schools with a higher diversity rate and lower parent income, or will these programs be found in schools with a lower diversity rate and higher parental income? In other words, are the majority of extensive environmental education programs found in Title I or non-Title I schools? The goals for Salt Lake City are strong, but the question of where they are currently and where they will be implemented is important. The objective of my research was to gain a deeper understanding of the environmental education programs in the Salt Lake City School District. Before delving into a deeper understanding of the Salt Lake City School District, their environmental programs, and how Title I schools differ, gathering district information was the opening step. The district has designated 20 K-12 schools as Title I schools, with 22 schools having more than 50% of their students coming from low-income families. The United States Department of Education implemented Title I schools nearly 50 years ago as a means of helping districts increase the education opportunities for low-income students. In order to gather this information, the first step was to reach out to principals from a randomly chosen 20 schools, from grades K through 8th and Title I versus non-Title I. In waiting for responses from those schools and authoritative figures, I began gathering demographic information on each specific school. I included factors such as total enrollment, students on free and reduced lunch, percent of low income, percent of various ethnicities, etc. Once responses began to come in, I conducted interviews, typically with the principal or the assistant principal of the school. I asked questions on what type of environmental education programs they have, the length of the program, their plans for development, percentage of student population involved, where funding comes from, and how extensive parent involvement tends to be. Over the course of 3 months, I was able to conduct interviews for 8 schools, 4 designated as Title I schools. I sought interviews with various nonprofit and community partners that are involved in these schools, so I was able to sit down with a school coordinator at Wasatch Community Gardens to get a different perspective on the topic of environmental education and Title I schools. Information, it seems that low-income/Title I schools are likely to have more extensive environmental education programs than non-Title I, due to the involvement of the community and the environmental priority found in authoritative figures within schools. 4 factors went into the success and strength of environmental education programs: external community partners, classroom variables, parent involvement, and principal dedication. Community partners lead to the success of environmental education programs in Title I schools. Since schools are publicly recognized with the Title I designation, various environmental partners in the community reach out to build environmental education programs in schools. In the case of all 4 Title I schools, the community partners approach the schools rather than the other way around. They range from government agencies, public companies, and nonprofits. For example, Escalante Elementary School, with a population of 82% low-income families, has 4 various partnerships at any given time: the Relief Society of Salt Lake, Wasatch Community Gardens, Department of Natural Resources, and Radical Renovation, an environmental initiative funded by National Geographic and Ford Motor Company. There was a complete renovation of a vast expanse of land on the school grounds in 2006. and today the garden is complete with a wetlands creation, pond monitoring the endangered least-chub fish, and an organic garden. One in-depth community partner is the partnership provided by Wasatch Community Gardens. Wasatch's resources reach 9 various schools, not all of them available for interview. 5 of those schools are designated as Title I. I had the opportunity to interview Liz Peterson, the on-the-ground school representative for Wasatch. Peterson provides a resource to school gardens regarding their upkeep, educational support, new projects, etc. While there are school gardens in non-Title I schools, Peterson admits that most of her effort is spent on Title I designated school grounds. This was the case for all 4 of the Title I schools, while the non-Title I schools had to either seek out a partnership, with no more than one partnership occurring, or had no community stakes in the school at all. These external partnerships not only provide funding for schools that would typically be unable to afford such expenditures, but these environmental spaces flourish due to the outside time and support provided. The classroom variables were seen to be one of the larger impacts in the success of environmental education projects. Typically, the amount of time spent on environmental education was up to teacher judgment. It was not incorporated into the curriculum. If a teacher was passionate about the environment, it became a part of the class they were teaching. For example, at the Salt Lake Center for Science Education, one teacher spoke of her personal interest in environmental issues. In this specific situation, she began monitoring pika populations in the Uinta Mountains with her 6th grade classroom. The goal was to see the impacts of climate change through the monitoring. Her work is funded through grants she personally writes or personal funds. Peterson from Wasatch had discussed that the environment is easier and more necessary to incorporate into Title I schools due to the higher diversity rates. For some Title I schools, a majority of the students are learning English as a second language. As an example, Escalante Elementary has 65% Hispanic population. More than 22 languages are spoken within the halls of the school. When asking Peterson her perspective on the success of Title I environmental education programs, she said that being outside is a universal language. The success of environmental education is found not just in the way the program is run, but it is implemented in a way that makes learning in subjects such as math or English accessible to students with all backgrounds. The input of specific teachers, as seen in the Salt Lake Center for Science Education, is an important aspect of environmental education success through the classroom, but the addition of a universal language of the outdoors truly leads to success, specifically among the English language learners in Title I schools. As mentioned briefly above, there is major diversity in many Title I schools, along with a factor of low income. Unfortunately, these factors take a toll on the parent involvement that occurs within the Title I schools. It seems, however, that this lack of parent involvement leads to greater success among students in their environmental projects. Donna Reed, principal of Bonneville Elementary, a school with only 8% low-income families, speaks to the fact that the parents plant and upkeep nearly everything in the school garden. While the environmental initiatives are working in Bonneville's favor, as they met the Utah Society for Environmental Education's qualifications for a green school, the parents are putting the elbow grease into the efforts. Peterson discussed the strong PTA found in her non-Title I schools, but also spoke to the fact that it detracts from the student growth found in gardening projects. While the PTA may better support the maintenance of the gardens on the school grounds, the students' impact and growth on environmental initiatives are significantly lessened due to the lack of hands-on experience found in non-Title I schools. The final variable that can either make or break the success of environmental education programs is the dedication found in authoritative figures. As mentioned in regards to classroom variables, the dedication of teachers to environmental initiatives can set the foundation for strong environmental education. Teachers make up one aspect of authoritative figures, but the dedication is seen in principals as well. Liz Peterson mentioned that the success of a program is seen when one passionate administrative figure takes initiative to build up a plan. That leads to a positive experience with community partners, long-term goals, classroom incorporation, etc. For example, at Wasatch Elementary, the principal discussed that there is no environmental education program at the school due to their choice to focus on the arts. In the case of Escalante Elementary, the assistant principal I interviewed had a great passion for the environment. She has continued to revamp the program since her arrival at the school and put priority on those projects. The dedication found among authoritative figures, be it teachers, assistant principals, can make or break the success of an environmental education program within a school. Environmental education in the Salt Lake City School District has the potential to flourish. However, there seem to be underlying influences making it difficult for full implementation, both in Title I and non-Title I schools. The first factor is standardized testing. Due to the strong importance placed on testing scores, the curriculum is taught based on those tests. In many cases, it seems that there isn't the flexibility to incorporate environmental education into daily lessons. They are teaching to the standardized tests. One of the other factors is the lack of longevity in all of the projects. This comes about in two ways: the sustainability of community partners and the movement of authoritative figures. While Title I schools are relying on the resources of community partners, the success of the garden past the time of those partners is hard to see. The maintenance, both physically and fiscally, is hard to imagine without the finite resources of external support. In regards to authoritative figures, the district has what Peterson calls rover principals. Most principals only stay at a school for a few years before transferring. With this system, it is hard to imagine a principal being invested completely in environmental education success. Their time span working on that project is so limited. These factors are all around downsides within the Salt Lake City School District in regards to environmental education. My research took place over the course of the district's summer break. Due to this, the ability to get in contact with individuals to interview was quite difficult. In continuing research, I would like to extend the sample size. There are a total of 40 schools in the district, and it would be an achievable goal to interview an authoritative figure in each school. The next topic I would like to extend the information to would be measuring the benefits that come from environmental education. How does it actually impact individuals within the Salt Lake City School District, both short and long term?